Alright, now we have created a facing toolpath, and you'll notice that it had shown up here underneath the setup. We're now going to start removing more material away from this part. So we're going to do a 2D adaptive clearing, and this is what's called, or intended to be, a roughing cycle. So it's just focused on getting as much material off of the part as possible in the least amount of time, not necessarily in how nicely it does it. So what I did there was I clicked on the tool selection, because the 3-inch face mill that we used in the last operation is not going to be the right tool to do this. So what we want to select is coming in again to the tool library that I had set up before, is this 3/8 inch diameter flat 3/8 end mill. Okay, clicking on that, say OK. Again, notice that some of these values changed that were tied directly to the tool. Okay. Now, under this 2D adaptive material removal operation, we are now going to have to go over to this tab here that's called Geometry tab. We're going to have to be very careful on what we select here, because I'm going to select the lower pocket, or excuse me, the lower actual contour here of this pocket. Right. And then I'm going to see this arrow, red arrow, come up and select. Right. We could try it some different ways and see what happens, but for now that's what we want to select. Now, we're not going to need to do anything here. One thing, at least off the bat, what I want to show you though here is in Fusion 360, if you don't know what a particular thing does, you can actually kind of hover over that. So when I'm hovering over this offset dialog box that has this dimension here, it says the clearance height offset is applied and is relative to the clearance height selection in the above drop down list. So relative to this thing, and if you hover over this, it's going to give you some actual graphic description and readout of what this actually does. So that's a helpful tip for Fusion 360 in general. All right. For now, the most important thing is the bottom height. That's going to be how deep this is going to go, and then that functionality is flaking on me right now. But what we really do want it to be in terms of the depth, so that the computer knows how deep to calculate to go to, is going to be from that thing we just selected. So I like that right there. We can modify that if we want to, but in this case I'm good. We're good. So here we go. We've got this other. Passes here is going to be another important thing. We're going to leave it as it is right now, but we'll come back and show what changing some of these things does. And so right now we'll leave this here. Radial stock to leave is going to be something important to look at for later, and axial stock to leave 20 thousandths and 20 thousandths. So those are helpful to see later. But if I don't change anything else, just leaving these default things in place and click OK, if we selected the right geometry here, we're going to be successful, and it is going to calculate for us here an actual toolpath. So this is designed to come in and remove all this material and get it out of there. So again, if we come back, we could either select these. What I'm doing right here is coming back over to this panel over here, clicking there and holding down the Shift key, and I've now highlighted both of those toolpath operations. You can see over here, that's the one we just created. You could then either come up here also to click on Simulate, or what you can do is right click on them like we did before and go Simulate, or if you want to simulate an entire setup, everything in it, you can come down here and click Simulate. All the same way of doing the same thing. So here we go. If we do this now, got stock is on, and if I simulate, now I'm going to be, that was the facing cycle. This here now is actually coming down and starting to remove pocket. If you want to make this move faster, we can move that slider up. And this is just showing how it's going to remove all the material away from that pocket. So things to notice here that we did is that this is doing what's called a helical interpolation ramp all the way down to the very bottom of the part, or at least to within 20 thousandths of an inch axially of the bottommost thing that we selected, and then it's going to work its way all the way around this pocket at full depth down here, which is cool. Our machine might be able to handle that, but what I want you to see is that if I click close here, if I were to decide, that might be a little bit more aggressive than what I really want right now, you can come by right-clicking on the tool operation here. We can come to this edit icon, and now if we come back over here to passes, we can click on this icon for multiple depths, and then let's change this value to, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch. And then leaving everything else the same, I'm going to click OK. And now we can see what this does. Now it is taking effectively 3 different step downs, and only the most it's going to go is 1/4 of an inch at a time in terms of depth. But with that then, we have now at least reduced some of the load on the tool. But if our machine can handle it, that's going to get much more in depth later, learning more how to optimize a tool path. But for at least right now, this way we can know that we're actually going to be able to remove material and not have too much tool deflection or anything else, and that's getting a little more complex. But I'm comfortable with the fact that the machine that we have is going to be able to compensate or handle this actual tool path. Now it can jump ahead to the next operation. It's going to go through all the way. It's just now step down. But the thing to notice here also is that we had left that stock to leave box checked. Now if you look up top here, you can see that that right there is what I would call the finished wall of the pocket. And this tool and in this operation is actually leaving stock, what is called radially there. And if you were to be able to better see in here, it has actually left material 20/1000 of an inch on the floor of the pocket as well. So that's what we want in this case, because this is a roughing operation. But we'll take one more very quickly here just to finish out. So using another 2D adaptive toolpath, we can actually do another toolpath to remove material around the outside there. So what I just did, using the same tool, that 3/8 diameter flat end mill geometry now, selecting the outermost contour there, heights and everything's okay. And again, stock there, I'm going to leave multiple depths off. I'm going to click OK. We now have created, I'm going to jump to the next tool. So we're comfortable with the fact that's pocketing all the way through. Jump to the next operation. It's coming around the outside at full depth. It's now roughing all that material around. And that is 2D adaptive clearing. We've just now cleared out this pocket and the outermost profile. Roughed those out.